Hello there. Welcome to Levels Plus Whenever, episode 75, the Invaded by Flavia episode. No, not really. It's the not E3 best of episode, actually, for 2023. I just needed a placeholder image because I didn't want to give away what I was going to share, and I'm not feeling particularly camera friendly today, so we're just going to work around that, and I get to show off a cute picture of Flavia, so why not? Get some cat intermission times right at the beginning. Anyway, I've got 26 trailers queued up from the various showcases. I've got probably at least one thing from every conference, except for ones that I don't follow. A wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So let's just go ahead and start with the Nintendo Direct. The 5 best things that came out of the Direct. And I'll talk about that a little bit more extendedly before we start. So let's talk about the Direct before I start up the trailers. So, yes, Mario RPG is my number one thing. We'll just get that out of the way. The Direct was interesting, I will say. I had some immediate thoughts on it afterwards, but I decided to cut them out of the reaction and think about it for a few more days. And ultimately what I walked away with is that at the very least we know Nintendo's intending to go through the rest of 2023 and into 2024, likely with no hardware announcements, because they've got 2 big games coming out this holiday season, in Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Super Mario RPG. So Mario's basically carrying a lot of weight. We also have a new Detective Pikachu game, which honestly didn't look very good to me and doesn't aesthetically really do anything for me because I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan. Alongside the Pokemon Scarlet Violet DLC, which is taking a while to actually land. I seem to recall Sword and Shield being faster. Mario Kart DLC through the rest of the year. We know Splatoon 3 still got Side Order coming out at some point. It wasn't even shown at this Direct, which was weird. And then, of course, Pikmin 4 is kind of their big anchor game this summer. And they spent quite a bit of time on that. They didn't even talk about Everybody Want to Switch because they're embarrassed. They've got new WarioWare coming out, I think, September? That's their September game. So yeah, they're kind of, they've set themselves up for the rest of the year. Even if we don't see DLC for Zelda right away, they close off Engage and Advance Wars from DLC and just leave them as they currently sit. There wasn't a Kirby game. I was a little surprised about that. They have been loving Kirby so much lately. But in terms of things that I really like, in terms of things that I'm really into from Nintendo, there was very little here. Like, the Mario games were basically it. I am more interested in Pikmin 4 than I've ever been, because I like all of the changes that they're doing. It makes it more in tune with my gameplay preferences. But I'm not going to buy that at launch. I don't care about WarioWare. I don't care about Pokemon enough to care about either of those announcements. And I'm excited for Mario Kart DLC, but I basically haven't even touched Wave 3 or 4 really since they've come out. So I can't say I'm that enthusiastic about it. So from Nintendo's perspective, I'm going to give this just a straight up C for their content. And that's really carried on the Mario games. Nothing really there for me personally to get really excited about beyond the Mario stuff. Because my franchise tier list for Nintendo is kind of like Metroid, Fire Emblem, Zelda, Smash probably, and then Mario. In terms of the rest of the Direct, I've got 3 third-party games in my top 5 from them that I'm pretty excited about, one of which I've already pre-ordered, which we'll get to momentarily. But there was a lot of multiplayer mini-game stuff in there, which is not my cup of tea. There was farm sim stuff, which is not my cup of tea. Silent Home Exceed's new game didn't really stand out to me much. Plus, like, they decided to make everybody silent, so, like, I'm not going to get an opportunity to really connect with my protagonist all that much unless it's extremely well written. And I'm not sure how that's going to go. All the indie stuff they showed off didn't really appeal to me much. Capcom wasn't even there. I'm not a Metal Gear fan. That was a big deal, but that just didn't hit me very deeply because I don't care. I have a lot of issues with Metal Gear Solid as a franchise, so I will not be playing any of them. So that doesn't do anything for me personally. So that's kind of where I sit. Is that in terms of third-party stuff, it's still kind of around a C. So ultimately, for me personally, I think a C is a pretty good grade, which is solid, but nothing that really made me go ooh beyond Super Mario RPG and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Star Ocean: The Second Story R, and Penny's Big Breakaway, as well as seeing more on Sonic Superstars, which made me convinced that it's something I will want to pay attention to. And those are the 5 things that I'm going to share. So let's go ahead and start the trailers up and talk about the games individually real quick. So Super Mario RPG is getting a remake. This could have gone 2 ways, but most people seem to interpret it as a remake when I watched reactions, which I think is interesting. The other direction would have been it's coming to Nintendo Switch Online. But this is, I think, the better choice, honestly, because this looks amazing and incredible. I love how the graphics are mirroring that isometric perspective with the proportions of Mario, Peach, and Bowser, and Geno, and Mallow, and everyone else. But look at this. This is like almost one-to-one how I would envision this game looking in 3D. And Super Mario RPG really lends itself this way because it was built in a way that was kind of in between 2D and 3D. It was kind of like they applied some Donkey Kong Country style rendering to the sprites. And this looks, outside of a few aesthetic changes, and I think people who know this game way better than I do, some mild gameplay changes, looks very faithful. But it's just wonderful to see this game come back to life. And Yoko Shimomura is redoing all the soundtrack, brand new arrangements. She's so excited about it. She shared on her Twitter. It really just looks fantastic. This is exactly the type of hype announcement I love Nintendo Directs for. This did get sort of leaked early, as did Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Someone said, "Oh, there's a retro Super Nintendo thing, and a new Mario 2D game," and they were right on the money. But even with that knowledge, both of these games look just astoundingly good, and I'm very excited about them both. And this game deserves a revival because it's been kind of locked in a weird place because Square Enix kind of co-owns it. So I'm glad that that's been resolved. We're getting a new version. It's going to be great. New Super Mario Brothers is the weakest chunk of the Mario canon, in my opinion. Gameplay-wise, they're fine. They're perfectly fine. Aesthetically, they're boring. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is doing the most incredible revamp of what the visual aesthetic for a 2D Mario game could look like. This looks so much like official 2D artwork of Mario and the Mushroom Kingdom since like Super Mario Bros. 3. It's animated beautifully. Mario's got emotions. There's bizarre stuff going on thanks to these wonder flowers, I'm guessing they're called. Daisy's playable. Holy crap. As I said in the reaction, Daisy has not been playable in a mainline Mario game. She's been in Super Mario Land, where she was the victim, she was the damsel, the reward, and then she's only been in Super Mario Run in terms of a non-sports kart party game. So her being here is huge. It's wonderful to see her actually be playable, and this looks so good. The soundtrack has energy. The visuals have energy. The gameplay's got energy. Everything about this is screaming imagination, which is not what New Super Mario Bros. Really said to me. I would even argue that Super Mario 3D World, as much as I love that game, is kind of boring in some ways, because it just doesn't have like this fantastical element that this does. So this is the revamp the Mario series has needed for a long time. That Super Mario Odyssey kind of started, but this is pushing beyond those bounds into something even cooler and more imaginative and creative, and I love it. I can't wait to play it. I'm so excited about it. Now, for me, the biggest shock of the Direct, outside of Mario RPG, was this. This did get leaked by Square Enix themselves on their Instagram. But look at this. This is a beautiful way to revitalize this PS1 game, which I played the intro of, so I know what it looks like at this stage, this early on. And this is incredibly well done. It's got great new character art. The sprite work looks fantastic. The 3D and the 2D meshing together looks really, really good. The lighting engine is incredibly well executed. And it's got a lot of interesting tweaks that I think is going to make it more accessible for someone today to play. There's difficulty options. You can switch the soundtracks to a newly arranged soundtrack by Motoi Sakuraba. They've refined the battle engine so that way you can do chain attacks to stun enemies, as well as have your non-active party members chip in with assists, as they're showing off right here. I haven't been this hype about a Square Enix remake in a long time. Like, Tactics Ogre Reborn I was excited about, but visually I wasn't wowed by it. What they are doing with Star Ocean wows me, and I can't wait to see it in person. Penny's big breakaway is the stunning, underappreciated, kind of indie, kind of not game of this Direct. The team behind Sonic Mania is making this. This is the actual full trailer, not what they showed in the Direct. But look at the aesthetic. This is a throwback to those early 3D platformer days, but with modern visuals and probably more refined controls and camera work. But this just looks so fun. I miss this style of 3D platformer. And the mobility options with the yo-yo looks so engaging. I've heard a lot of people say this reminds them of like a Saturn platformer, and I feel like that is a very apt description. I'm glad I'm actually watching this trailer because it has a lot of footage not in the Direct one that we saw. I just love the visual look of this game. It's simple, but it's really sharp. And it looks like it's so much fun. It's got a lot of different options and versatility and goofiness. I think it's going to be a spectacular game. And I'm very excited to experience it once it actually comes out. And then Sonic Superstars. This was actually revealed at Summer Game Fest, but I feel like the Direct trailer did a better job of selling me on it than the Summer Game Fest trailer. You get to see more gameplay here, and get a little bit of a better explanation of what's going on with it, which I think is fantastic. This game looks good. It's got 4 players, which I don't know how that's going to work, but Amy's also playable in it after following her debut in Sonic Origins Plus as classic Amy. It's got emerald powers that give you different goofy things that you can do, like Sonic clones, or slowing or creating invisible platforms, or swimming up waterfalls. I think that's really interesting. I really don't know how this is going to work. But I think that this looks like the best Sonic game to come out since Mania, and I am genuinely excited to try it. I'm hoping that it turns out well. It sounds like the early playtests that people had with it have been really positive. And Christian Whitehead, who worked on Sonic Mania, says the physics feel Sonic. And that's important, because, if it doesn't feel like Sonic, it feels weird. Alright, well, the most exciting thing that was not at a Nintendo Direct, and I did my own reaction to this individually, is Neva from Devolver Digital and Nomada Studio. The creators of Grease are back, and I have been waiting years to see what they were going to come out with next. And I didn't necessarily expect it to be this. I didn't expect it to be a more action-driven, very different art style, even though it is Grease-like. It's got its own thing going on. It's not the same thing. But this game just looks, based on this trailer, like it's going to be an artistic tour de force, much like Grease was, but in a different context, and it's still going to be incredibly emotional, it's going to be impactful, and it's going to really, really, like, tug on the heart. I also think it's great that we're getting a black protagonist. That is always a wonderful thing to see, and we don't see it enough. I'm really intrigued by what this game's going to be. I'm looking forward to seeing some gameplay of it in, I hope, the near future. Because I think that Nomada has the chops to pull this game off. I have that confidence in them, just based on Grease and how amazing that game turned out to be. It's a top 5 game of mine, so clearly I think very highly of Nomada, based on just one game. And I feel like they're going to continue that streak into Neva without any problems whatsoever. Cannot wait. Want to find out more so desperately. My second favorite thing that was shown in terms of third-party indie stuff is Demon School. Oh my god. This game blew me away when I saw it last year, and it continues to do so. This is by Necrosoft. They are the studio that, I'm forgetting what their last game was, but they also did that dodgeball game that came out recently. I'm so sorry, I can't remember what else they've worked on. My brain is farted because I am just in awe of how cool this game looks. This is like Persona 2 if done by an indie studio with incredible sprite artwork chops. This looks so, so good. It's got a little bit more of a tactical gameplay component, it looks like, where putting yourself in the right place is important. But this just is such a stunning looking game. The soundtrack so far is great. The character designs are really, really good. And it's definitely the closest I think I've personally come across a game managing to successfully ape what Atlas has done with Persona on their own, with a very, very strong art and gameplay concept. That's really the nicest thing I can say, is that I want a Persona experience without the Persona writers. And this looks like that's going to fulfill that for me and do something really amazing. I cannot wait to see more of this game. My third favorite thing that came out, which surprises me in hindsight, and this is another underappreciated thing, I didn't really see people react to this the way that I did, is Dungeons of Hindenburg, which is a very awkward name. But this game looks so good. It looks like a beautifully animated 2D or 3D. Well, it's got a 2D animated look to it, is what I'm trying to say. But it's a Zelda-like. And now that I've finished Tears of the Kingdom, I would love to see a developer, especially an indie developer, manage to come up with a game that can try to kind of capture the same essence. And I feel like this game, with its versatility in combat, with its versatility in puzzles, and its versatility in maneuvering around in environments, I think this game has that potential. I think that this game comes off incredibly strong right out the gate. Unfortunately, it's not on a platform that I own. It's apparently an Xbox only thing. But that's okay. I feel that I can still love the way something looks even if it's not coming to the Switch. And I think that this looks like a phenomenally excellent game that I would love to know more about. So now that we're out of kind of like the three things that blew me away outside of other shows, we'll talk about some other stuff. Some of it's ranked, and then I just kind of stopped feeling like ranking stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into Minoko's Night Market, which got more footage at the Wholesome Direct right off the gate. I've been interested in this game since it was announced back in like 2019. I went silent for a while, but we're seeing a lot of it now. And I think that this is a really gorgeous looking game. And I love the concept of having to go adventure and then having to then sell the stuff that you find while you're adventuring. It's got an incredible art style. It's definitely goofy. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. So I am very excited to see more of this game in a couple months. Shredder's Revenge. This got announced sometime in the last month. This is the DLC announcement. I love Shredder's Revenge. I think it was one of the best games that came out last year. And this update looks like it's going to basically do Streets of Rage 4 style stuff with a kind of like a survival mode with new levels. And there's new character colors. You got new characters as well. We only know Usagi so far, but Usagi is a fantastic start to a DLC character campaign. So I'm very excited to see what Tribute's going to cook up in the rest of this game, because it is already one of the best beat 'em ups I've played, easily the best Ninja Turtles game that's ever been made. And more is going to be awesome. Plucky Squire also showed up at Sony's conference. Devolver honestly saved Sony's conference because there wasn't a whole lot there otherwise. This looks incredible, like it has when it was debuted last year at the Devolver Direct. I'm really excited to know that there's other characters that you could potentially have party with you, so you're not just going to be this little Squire guy all the time on your own. I don't know if you can control the other characters, but this leap out from 2D storybook graphics into an adorable 3D wandering around the real world in a kind of a claymation-esque style really just gels with me. I think that this is an incredible gameplay concept that I'm very excited to see more of. I'm not sure when this is actually coming out. I don't know if it says here. I want to say it's either later this year or next year. But it'll be worth the wait. It is this year. It'll totally be worth the wait, though, because I think it's going to be an incredible game. Everdeep Aurora. Now, this one caught me out of nowhere. I saw a screenshot, I think probably on Nintendo Everything or something. But I didn't really get what this game was about until I saw it at the Wholesome Direct, which was kind of an interesting place for it to end up landing, because it's just a little bit of a darker game than what they usually have visually. But the sprite work in this is beautiful. It's using a limited color palette so effectively, and yet you can still tell where your character is at all times, which I think is really a compliment to the sprite developers and designers. The animation looks fantastic for everything. I seem to remember the music being really pleasant as well. This game really intrigues me. Plus, you get to be a cat, and I like playing as cats in games. But just like it's going hard, and I'm really excited to see more about this game when it comes out. I want to say later this year. I think this was a 2023 game. We'll eventually find out. 2024, so it'll be early next year sometime, I hope. But that game just blew me away. Path of the Goddess. I'm not going to say the first part because I didn't have time to see it. This was at Xbox and Capcom Showcase. This is a brand new IP from Capcom. Out of nowhere, we get this incredible looking game that really seems to be pushing the RE engine in terms of its macabre aesthetics. This game has such a strong Japanese cultural heritage and a huge yokai influence through it that I'm just delighted to see it, despite how morbid it all is. It's got such strong design and visually is a feast for the eyes to look at, and it's got just style out the ass. Like, look at this. This is just incredibly creative. And then you get to recruit people to join your party, it seems. The Capcom Showcase said there's a tactical element to this game, so it's an action strategy game. So that's nice to know. It's not just like a Devil May Cry type of thing. It's going to actually have more strategy elements where you have to probably balance how your units move around and attack. But I just think this is a standout looking game from Capcom and continuing their incredible streak of games lately. They haven't really missed anything since arguably Resident Evil 3 being a little bit disappointing in terms of its scope. But even then, like, they have been on fire lately, and this is only continuing that trend. And now they're getting the confidence to do more original material. Kind of like Pragmata, which also they showed at Capcom's thing, but is not really the type of game I'm interested in. And if you have an Xbox, you can play it day one of Game Pass. The other big announcement at Capcom Showcase was the Apollo Justice trilogy is getting remade for modern platforms. And that's wonderful. I wouldn't have necessarily immediately called it the Apollo Justice trilogy, but look at how good Apollo Justice Ace Attorney looks. The HDification of these sprites from the DS to here, infinitely better than what they did with the original trilogy. The original trilogy looked rough to me. Like, there's parts of it that just don't look good. But when you look at what they did for Apollo Justice, it looks great. And the two 3DS games with the 3D engines, they have been scaled perfectly. They look great. This entire trilogy looks phenomenal in contrast to my misgivings about the last trilogy. The games are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but the way that they chose to HD the GBA graphics made things a little bit smudgy. This doesn't have that problem, that I can tell. So I am beyond elated how good this looks, and I cannot wait to pick it up when it comes out next year. Release it physically in America, though. That would be awesome. I would really appreciate that. I haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake yet, so this is entirely spoilery for me. But I can't deny that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looks phenomenal. I can't say that Final Fantasy VII has done much for me before this happened. I've tried playing it 3 times. I always fall out of it around the time I get out of Midgar. This will be the first time, if I get Rebirth, which I'm anticipating doing if I like Remake, whenever I get to play that, to actually finally appreciate this game more than the Midgar part. And I'm excited about that prospect. I'm also really intrigued by like how Square Enix is changing things up, making this not be the perfect recollection of what originally happened, but adding these interesting little like what's actually going on with this game type of stuff that they started with Remake and are emphasizing pretty strongly here. But it looks gorgeous. Yuffie and Red 13 are playable. Not sure if anyone else is going to make it in terms of playable characters. But I'm glad that the roster expanded a little bit and has incorporated those characters. The combat engine is the combat engine is adding in dual techs, which I think is a delightfully good idea to really emphasize team building. And that's something that I really want to see more of in RPGs is team up attacks. I love them. Ever since Chrono Trigger, I absolutely adore them. And it really feels like what Square Enix is doing with Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy, I'll just call it to be simple, is taking something that people clearly love and having people who also clearly love it work on it, but are also unafraid of change. That, I think, is the most important thing about these games being so successful. Because everything I've heard about Remake and Integrate is that they are doing a wonderful job for the most part. And it really looks like Rebirth is continuing that. And the voice acting is solid, the writing is interesting. What little we've seen of... Like, I was watching people who know this game react to it and getting really excited about seeing what was going on. This whole part with Sephiroth here at the end, I personally find really intriguing because I don't understand the context of his quotes here, and it makes me want to play Remake so I can get started on all this and understand why he's saying what he's saying. It's just wonderful. It's wonderful stuff. Kudos to Square Enix for bringing a really solid trailer and basically saving Summer Games Fest from being a snore. Dragon's Dogma 2. This was also announced at Sony's State of Play, I think. I don't remember. It was announced in the last month at one of these things. It was also a Capcom showcase. This actually made me buy Dragon's Dogma 1 for the Switch because it was on sale for $5. And I was like, I might want to replay this closer to this game's release because I really love Dragon's Dogma. It took a while. It took a while for it to connect, but once it did, and I actually got strong enough that I wasn't getting absolutely like demolished by the monsters, but it was more of an even fight, and I got used to using the climb aspect to jump on things and using the pawns more effectively. This was just such a unique experience that not many other games have managed to replicate, and everything about this trailer is indicating that it's going to be that and more. And I can't wait. More environmental stuff. That moment right there, that's what sold me on Dragon's Dogma when I actually did that in the original game. Grabbed a griffin and it flew off while I was still attacking it. Just cool gameplay stuff. And there's new enemies that are going to be in this. Visually, it's got the RE engine powering it, so it's going to just look astoundingly beautiful. Cannot wait to see more of this game. I think it's going to be a really worthy follow-up. Highland Song, this is really short, but I really liked what I was seeing of this. It reminded me a little bit of if Greece was in reality. Gorgeous visual style, absolutely stunning animation. I'm really intrigued to learn more about this game. It seems that there's some repercussions for the decisions that you make. You have to be careful. I just think it looks phenomenally good. Kamaru Frog Refuge is adorable. It reminds me of those, I forget what they're called, but they used to make, I'm going to pause it because this is a short trailer. They used to make, and I don't know if they still exist, but it was like Coloro Forms or something like that. And they were boards with a decorated background, and then you had these little sticker type things, but weren't, that you could peel on and off of them. That were like a vinyl. And this game's visual aesthetic reminds me of that a lot, and that I think is a definite positive. Plus, look how cute these frogs are. I like the camera perspective being this angle because I really feel like I'll be able to see what's going on really well. I hope that you can create what your character looks like, but I just think the art style in this is phenomenally well executed, and I think it's just really adorable. I'm hoping that it comes to Switch. Little Nemo and the Guardians of Slumberland. This game is a spiritual successor to Little Nemo the Dream Master on the NES. It reminds me a lot of Way Forward, if they were to make a Nemo game, but this definitely has its own style. I'm really intrigued by this game's visual hook. It definitely has a lot of mobility, more than you might expect. I think that it's really, really beautifully animated. I actually know of one of the people doing the sprite art. I don't even know if I call it sprite art, the art in this game. And it just looks so good. And I can't wait to actually play this. I think this is going to be a phenomenally good 2D puzzle platformer. And I'm very excited that you can get it on Switch. Tiny Bookshop. I used to work in bookstores, so I love bookstores, just generally, especially indie ones. And here's a game where you get to own your own bookshop that's a mobile trailer, and I think this is such a cool idea. And then you get to kind of wander around and develop your clientele, interact with them. Get to determine who gets to advertise in your store, where you're gonna park, buying books. I think this is just so cool. I'm really intrigued by this game, and I want to see if it fulfills and it has the it has the Untitled Goose Game kind of aesthetic with the character designs. I hope it's coming to Switch because I would love to play this. Sacrifier. I've shown this off before. This is an indie Suikoden-esque style RPG. It's got really nice sprite work. And this, I think, I don't know when this was shown off, but it was at the Guerrilla Collective. I feel like I watched it before that. But I think that this is a really cool looking game that has more interactivity in terms of the layout. Sakuraba's doing some of the music in this game. It's a very beautiful looking game, and I hope that the gameplay comes together, because I really want this game to be successful. I don't remember if this is coming to Switch or not, though, but I hope it does. Altered Alma. This game's kind of violent. Just as an FYI. But this game looks so good. This game looks so good. This is a Metroidvania. But it's got beautiful sprite art. But it is definitely not afraid of showing some gore. But I was blown away at how cool this looks. I haven't seen anything on this game yet, until this was shown at the PC Gaming Show, which was definitely the highlight there. But it looks really good. I think that there's possibly 2 characters. I'm not sure. I hope this is coming to Switch as well. It looks really neat. Mariachi Legends. This is another Metroidvania, but this game's got some style. We didn't get to see a lot of gameplay of this, unfortunately, which kind of bummed me out, because once we kind of get past this point, it shows very little gameplay and then it ends, but the visual aesthetic of this is so good. I think that the art is phenomenally well done. I'm really intrigued by this game. I want to see more of it. I really want to see how it controls, how it plays, more than what we have in this game's introductory trailer. Because it's very fast. But I think that this looks so cool. And the sprite work is very well done. You just don't get to see a whole lot of it before it's over. And it's over. See what I mean? But I think the art style is really strong. Ebenezer in the Invisible World. Now, this took me by surprise. This looks a lot like Forgotten Anne, which I think is a compliment. But this is taking like A Christmas Carol's Ebenezer Scrooge and turning that story into a Metroidvania, which is incredibly unique. Not what I expected at all when I realized this was Ebenezer Scrooge. And he gets to take on the personas, so to speak, of various circus performers and then deal with the ghosts of his past. Just a really unique concept. And like I said, the art style is very strong. But once we actually get into gameplay, it's really nice looking. Like, I did not expect this weird concept of Ebenezer Scrooge suddenly has the mobility of a Belmont or a Soma Cruz to be in a game like this. But it's visually very strong and it's very unique, and I think that it's something that really caught my attention. I was like, whoa, what's going on with this game? What's this about? And I'm very intrigued. I really want to know more about like the design elements of this game. It's such a strong idea that it could absolutely fail if it's not done well. And it looks like, as far as this trailer shows, that the developers know what they're doing. So mad props to them for taking a very established character and being very, very unique with him and doing something really cool. And that is coming to Switch, so I'm very excited to see how that turns out in the future. Hopefully well. Resistor. This was somewhere. This game caught a lot of people by surprise because visually it looks very good. It's got a very strong graphic style that really mirrors like an anime. But it's a driving RPG. So it's like Twisted Metal meets Persona or something. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how it all works. But the car combat looks really good. And it looks like you have to make a lot of decisions, a lot of, like, there's rivalries and stuff that you have to deal with. I was pretty impressed, and it looks like a proper racing game. So I think it looks really cool. We'll see if it turns out well. The Last Faith. This is another Metroidvania. This one was very stunning when I watched it. I found it on Sony's thing, but I saw it somewhere else. I just don't remember where. This is very Blasphemous-like, but is a unique game by a completely different team. But like, it looks really good. Like, watching this gameplay was like, whoa. And I know Blasphemous is the same thing, but Blasphemous is almost too gross for me to get into. But this, I think I might give this a shot, because aesthetically this is more my speed in terms of dark gothic stuff. I do wish that it was slightly more colorful at times, because everything kind of having this grayish tone It's not really my favorite thing, but outside of that, like, little nitpick, I think it's animated really well. It looks really interesting. There's a lot of moves, a lot of mobility, which are the types of things I like in a Metroidvania. So I have hopes that this turns out well. So, on the whole, not E3. Turned out pretty well. There was a lot of really cool stuff that I didn't showcase. There was some stuff that I really liked. I just couldn't remember the name of it. And when I was looking through all of these trailers, trying to remember things, I'm sure that I missed a few that I thought were really awesome looking. And I apologize for that. But I also didn't want this to go on forever. So I felt like 26 was a good place to kind of have this sit. But yeah, there was a lot of great games shown off, and a lot of different art styles are being expressed now, which I think is just wonderful. You can totally see that in my just the diversity of the stuff that I was into. I think that's just really cool that we're just not locked into everything having to look a particular way anymore, and we're getting a lot of retro throwbacks as well, which I think is just super rad. Thank you for joining me as we went through all these. I hope that you found something that you liked as well. We will be back in the near future to Tears of the Kingdom, because I think I finally hit a point that I could finally put something else into my Switch and play instead of that. I got most of the outfits, and that was the last thing I was really trying to work on. There's still a couple I need to get, but they require pose. So that will just be what I really feel like diving into that game and being in the depths for a long time. Which doesn't need to be right now. And I'll probably try to get something together on that in the very near future. Until then, my friends, thank you so much for watching again. Have a wonderful set of days. Take care.